In behalf of my groupmates, I would like to greet you all a pleasant morning. So our group decided to have a video recorded discussion due to some internet connection issues with some of our groupmates. So we are hoping for your consideration as well as for your understanding. So in today's video, we will discuss the art in early civilizations. So sit back, relax, and lend your ears. For the learning objectives, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to discuss how art was used by prehistoric people to depict everyday life, identify the central themes of prehistoric art, and differentiate the techniques used during the three kingdoms of early Egypt, and explain how art is linked with religion in early Egyptian civilization. For the topic outline, we will be discussing first the prehistoric art, and under prehistoric art, we have the Stone Age, Paleolithic art, and Neolithic art. And next is the Egyptian art. Under the Egyptian art, we will be talking about the three kingdoms, the Old, Middle, and the New Kingdom, as well as the Amarna evolution.
The Stone Age Paleolithic art. So it is important to know about this because we can know about the past and the centuries BC or the old ages. We can know and expand our knowledge about this topic and we can share to the others people. So the Stone Age has witnessed how humans were able to lead more stable lives and eventually come up with permanent shelters and tools for survival. For those tools that they use about that time is come from stone flakes. They create and make um, a tools to survive in that time. So it is important to have a permanent shelter so that they can save from wild animals in the forest and other people in that time. So early humans also turned the creation of paintings and sculptures that depict humans and their natural habitats. It would seem that there were attempts to record the kind of lives they led within that period of time. Central to the representation of early civilization would be the establishing of possible linkage among art, religion, and life. It is important to know about this because we can share our knowledge about the people who don't know about this topic. Paleolithic art is a product of climate change. As the climate got colder, part of the early human's instinct is to look for shelters that would provide them with warmth. Caves became protective havens for the early humans, and these caves paved the way for the birth of their first attempts to create art. So it is important to have a shelter to become safe from others and wild animals.
Halls of Walls. What's in the cave and how was it made? In belief with life in infertility, the discovery of the cave paintings came as a surprise. Two boys chased after their dog into a hole where the ball got stuck in. When they followed the dog, they were astonished to discover a cave with beautiful paintings. The cave paintings would eventually be called the Hall of Walls. What's in the cave painting? Some would say that this cave with paintings all over the walls and ceiling served as a kind of sanctuary for the early humans. As a safe haven, religious rituals could have possibly transpired within the confines of the caves. Some believe that there was a link between what's drawn and what could happen in real life. For example, drawing or painting the capture of a prey would translate to an actual capturing of an animal in real life. How was the cave painting made? The figures depicted on the walls were done with a certain levels of creepiness and life that there were initial hesitations of the work's authenticity. The paintings evoke naturalism, which is evidently seen through the contours of the animal's body and their dark colors. Although most people would think that early humans were primitive, some of the art techniques were considered advanced for their time. Some of the early humans already used their own version of spray painting techniques by using round pigments blown through needs or hollowed out bones since these were the readily available materials for them. Aside from this spray paintings technique, early humans also worked with the foreshortening and contrasting of lights and shadows. These techniques created the illusions of three-dimensional forms and seemingly real representation of animals, beliefs with life and fertility in the early times. One of the works that reflected such belief would be a sculpture called the Venus of Willendorf. This figure is a highly abstracted woman from highlighted body parts associated with fertility. Figure shows that the woman has oversized breasts, enlarged hips, and round abdomen. The representation may show the importance of taking care of these body parts for procreation and consequently the survival of species.
Neolithic art has developed especially when life for the early humans has become more stable. They have learned to cultivate the land and domesticate animals. By 4000 BCE, there were several monumental and architectural structures erected. One of them is the Stonehenge, located in southern England. The purpose of this fascinating structure remains a mystery up to this day and age. Some regard it as a temple, while others see it as complex calendar that tracks the movements of both the sun and moon. Others ascribe some magical elements to it by associating it with Merlin the magician from King Arthur's story. For whatever purpose it was built on, it still remains as one of the architectural wonders the world has ever seen. It is also notable the most early civilization emerged and flourished in river valleys. The Nile in Egypt, Indus in India, Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, and Huanghe River in China.
Egyptian art. The Pearl Ribbon starts from the banks of the Nile River, which flows north to Africa and ventures into the Mediterranean. It is in this very ribbon where early Egyptians recognized the integral role of the Nile River to their daily lives. It is indispensability and utility that eventually led to the belief that the Nile is the worship as a god. With this came the notion that art was something that can be ascribed and associated with religion. And so Egyptians, art should be something religious and spiritual. The Egyptian civilization can be divided into three periods: Old, Middle, and New Kingdom. First, let's talk about Old Kingdom. Old Kingdom, it was evident in this period that religion was bound to the afterlife. Evident art in this time. Tombs. A concrete manifestation of this would have to be erection of tombs. What is the essence of tombs? Not just for keeping the dead bodies of important people, particularly the pharaoh, they serve as a shelter for the next journey, which is the afterlife. Because of its importance to them, they decorated the tombs with everyday objects that would reflect day-to-day activities, as it the afterlife is a mere continuation of what transpired on earth. The human figures seen in the tombs were represented in such a way that the profile of the head was evident. Pelvis, legs, and upper torso were prominent and the eyes are in frontal view. Inside the tomb, the walls were also decorated and carved in very low relief and incise detail. It can be noticed that the use of color was evident but have not been widely utilized because of its relative impermanence. Example of a tomb is the pyramids in Giza, which served as tombs since their main purpose was to provide a resting place for the pharaohs. When we say pharaohs, these are the kings in Egypt. The process of making. These pyramids are massive in size and were constructed using roughly more than 2 million limestone blocks. The stones used for the pyramids were quarried from a nearby plateau. The construction of the pyramids highlighted the ingenuity and advancement of the Egyptians for their time. Workers painstakingly moved the stones from the plateau going to the construction site using wooden rulers. Stone cutters are the site carved the blocks in a fine way before stacking them. The stacking process also showed the advancement of the Egyptians since they already used a system of ropes and pulleys. They finish it off by applying the surface with limestone for a more refined and flawless finish. A lot of the workers died or were punished for not reaching the quota in the process of constructing these massive architectural structures. However, they did not stop ensuring the excellent quality of the outside. The Egyptians also ensured that the insides of the pyramids would celebrate the life of their pharaohs by lavishly decorating them. However, it posed a problem since thieves usually plundered the valuable objects used to decorate the insides of the pyramids. The construction of the pyramids did not only show the brilliance of the early Egyptians, but it also highlighted the reverence of the people to their pharaohs at the expense of the citizens.
Narmer palette, one of the cosmetics palettes found in Egypt. It was a palette utilized and applied dark colors in King Narmer's eyes. The palette was also a symbol that commemorates the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. The unification was significant because it marked the beginning of their civilization. The detailed representation. At the back of the palette, King Narmer can be seen wearing the crown of Upper Egypt, looking victorious over a slain enemy. In addition, two more dead warriors can be seen beneath him. To his right is a falcon, the good Horus perched on papyrus stalks, which is a symbol of Lower Egypt. The top is sculpted with bull-shaped heads with human features that is representation of Hathor. Hathor is a god who symbolizes love and joy. What is very important is the king size in common comparison with the objects in the palette. Narmer, being the subject, is evidently larger than the people around him. This is a clear indication and ascension of his royal status. The front palette, on the other hand, shows lion-like figures with intertwined necks bound on leeches and is tamed by two men. King Narmer is still represented at the front side and he is on viewing the captured enemies. In this portrait, he is seen wearing the crown of Lower Egypt and holding some objects that denote power. The Narmer palette is one of the artifacts that emphasize the king's supreme and absolute authority. In most cases, the king is not just an authority figure but can be depicted and revered as deity. The common notion among Egyptians is seen in Egyptian stamped sculptures, which are basically large in dimensions and proportions and made out of hard materials. The choice of materials is deliberate since they want the sculpture to endure and withstand any condition. Permanence was important because this sculpture would serve as the house of the Ka or soul once the remains of the mummy disintegrate. Once A striking feature of most sculpture is that regardless of the age of death, the Inca figures highlight the prime life of the deceased.
Middle Kingdom. One of the features of the Middle Kingdom is a shift in the political hierarchy. There is an emergence of powerful groups of landlords that threaten the authority and rule of the Parawa. Because of the internal struggle between these two influential sides, art has taken a backseat during the Middle Kingdom. So, in order for art to re-emerge and flourish, Egypt needed to have more stable situation. This happened during the rule of King Mentuhotep when Egypt eventually got back on track. Art is art during the Middle Kingdom had had some reference from the Old Kingdom. However, there were some experimentation in terms of style that transpired during this period. Portrait, sculptures, and fresco paintings that were freely drawn are some of the styles that emerged during this period. To solve the problem of thieves that plundered the tombs, the Egyptians made rock-cut tombs by carving out a living rock. The insides of the tombs were still filled with chamber, and the hallways were lavishly decorated to celebrate the life of deceased.
New Kingdom. Egypt was not immune from foreign invaders and eventually fell into the hands of the Hyksos. This Asiatic tribe introduced Bronze Age weapons and horses to the Egyptians. When these foreign invaders were overthrown, the Egyptians formed the New Kingdom. It was a time of expansionism through territorial acquisition. Consequently, with the expansion came an increase in wealth, leading not only to economic but also political stability. The art of the New Kingdom had references from both of the preceding kingdoms. Monuments and sculptures were still linked with death and reverence for the deceased. During the previous kingdoms, tombs were just used for worshipping the dead, but with the new kingdom, they started having mortuary temples. These temples, which were carved out of living rocks, served not only a sanctuary for the dead, but also a place of worship for the living. During this period, Egypt has established itself as more advanced and powerful civilization. With this newly found strength and power comes an inflated ego. Their high regard of the people can be seen through their sculptures built on massive and monumental scales.
So now let's talk about the Amarna Revolution. So after the New Kingdom, Egypt witnessed the Amarna Revolution that was led by King Akhenaton and Queen Nefertiti. So during his reign, King Amenhotep wanted to revolutionize the arts and religion. So he later on changed his name to Akhenaton, which came from Aton, who is the sun god. So si Amenhotep at Akhenaton ay iisang tao lamang. So this changing of names signifies the shift in religion. So during this period, the only god to be revered was Aton, the sun god. So Egypt became monotheistic. And when we say monotheistic, it is the belief of only one god. And Akhenaton ordered all to tear down all monuments of other gods, and then he fervently ordered the creation and erection of new monuments in reverence to Aton. So most sculptures during this period had curving lines and full-bodied forms. So there is an emphasis to lifeline features of the face like an elongated jaw and thick-lidded eyes. And most artists in this period created artworks that are natural and seemingly real, highlighting the features of their subjects. Naturalism was not only used to depict the pharaoh, but also was used for members of the royal family, just like Queen Nefertiti's bust. So the use of naturalism in artworks was rather short-lived. When King Akhenaton died, his successors returned to the more rigid and conventional styles they employed during the period of the kingdoms. They also destroyed images and figures of Aton and subscribed to monotheism. So probably one of the greatest discoveries from Egyptian civilization was the tomb of Tutankhamen that was discovered by Howard Carter in 1922. So Tutankhamen was considered as a pharaoh or a king. So he became a king at such a young age and died at the age of 18. The team of Carter was very astonished to find gold artworks and that the coffin was made out of solid gold. The body of the young king was covered in linen and a gold mask covered his face. So let's recall. Hollow Pulse is one particular example of cave painting that was found in a cave in France. Venus of Willendorf is a figure that shows a highly abstracted woman from highlighted body parts associated with fertility. Stonehenge, an example of Neolithic art. The Old, Middle, New Kingdom are the three periods during the Egyptian civilization. The tombs and the Narmer palette are the most evident art during the Old Kingdom. Pyramids in Giza is a resting place for the pharaoh. So Pharaoh is the kings of Egypt. King Mentuhotep is the ruler of the Middle Kingdom. Hathor, god who symbolizes love and joy. Aton, sun god. Mortuary temples is a place of worship for the living. Monotheism is the belief of only one god. Tomb of Tutankhamen is the greatest discoveries from Egyptian civilization that was discovered by Howard Carter in 1922. And now let's wrap up the lesson. So how art was used by prehistoric people to depict everyday life. So during the prehistoric period, the early humans had transformed from a nomadic lifestyle to that of a more permanent one, which led to early civilizations. They turned to the creation of paintings and sculptures with the use of readily available in nature, mainly through the use of stones. Some of the works discovered from this period would give modern society a glimpse of what life was like during that period. What is the central theme for prehistoric art? Central to the representation of early civilizations would be the establishing of possible linkages among art, religion, and life. The different art techniques used during the three kingdoms, the Old, the Middle, and the New Kingdom. Art has also flourished through the Egyptian civilization. Throughout the three kingdoms, all the way to the Amarna Revolution, art has been directly used particularly in religious and spiritual activities. Particularly during the Old Kingdom, tombs and the Narmer palette was evident. Portrait sculptures and fresco paintings were the most evident art styles during the Middle Kingdom, and during the New Kingdom, Egypt has established a more advanced and powerful civilization. Through these unearthed and discovered artworks, the modern world could have a better understanding of the past and how it can affect the present. So that's the end of the discussion. Thank you for listening and have a good day, everyone.